Welcome back to another episode of Legal Lounge. I almost stumbled right there.
Well, you did stumble. You didn't almost
It's all
stumble. You
right.
did.
I do this almost every episode, but we're here for another episode with a guest. We have our lovely attorney, Miss Connie Ravdell. She's our family law attorney here at the law office of Brian Fagan. So we wanted to have you join us today. Thank you for coming in.
Of course.
So we're gonna ask you some questions, go through your life as an attorney.
Oh, gosh.
And then just kind of, talk about your experience as an attorney here or just, as an attorney in general to go from there. So would you like to introduce yourself? Like, how did you get your foot into the door of the attorney
Business
life? Right.
Well, hi, I'm Connie Ravdell. Originally from South Africa, so I don't sound like a Texan. P.S. What is that? I'm not from here, but I got here as quick as I could. And then the other one is every state is a state of Texas, and Texas is a state of mind. And then you make friends and they relax. Anyway, family law actually found me. I was going to be a surgeon like my father until my first day of law school. But in retrospect, when I look back at my college experience, basically what I was doing was cross-examining all my professors. I was like, so given this, how come that? And they're like, so I was having a good time. And so it was sort of, it's funny when you look at your life path, as it were, when you turn the corner that you're supposed to be turning and go down the path that is actually intended for you, it's like doors fly open and suddenly you no longer feel like you're putting a square peg in a round hole. It just seems to flow a lot easier. I mean, it still took me a year between law school and my first job. I'm not saying it was, like, hey, I just sat back and the world came to me. But in the sense of experientially, it just seemed like it was just different. Plus, I always had a penchant for like jackets and desk things and, stuff like that.
Boy, if you become a surgeon, you can wear a coat.
It's a different kind. And you have to wear a mask.
Oh.
I mean, cover all this up? Me? No.
So you said family law found you. So tell me, was your first job was a family law attorney?
Yes, my first job in April of 1998. I started at Rackerson and Wagner, and I was their family law associate.
Nice.
And I taught myself family law because when I was at law school, I was actually thinking that I was going to do medical malpractice defense more, or hospital law or something like that. So all of my electives were like hospital law, and I did an internship at TIR, the Institute for Rehabilitation and Research. I worked with Kathleen Da Silva over there, who's there I don't know, I've lost track with her, touch with her, but she was the in-house counselor there at the time, and learned a lot from just working with her and from being there. It was an incredible experience if you have the opportunity to spend time. See, just as a sidebar, this is Auntie Connie Ann talking, not lawyer Connie Ann. It's the me. There are people who have challenges, physical challenges that we see, but rarely, if we're, I guess, blessed, I suppose, enough, we don't have them close to us for long periods of time. We don't spend time with them on a regular basis. And so I got to spend time speaking with these people and hearing their journey and their story. And it really touched me. And you think, like, Kathleen had broken her neck when she was 16 on a balance beam. So all these people, for the most part, who are there, I know we're going a little off track, sorry.
No, it's okay.
That's what I do. All these people are generally very physically active, and then their physicality is removed from them, and they're literally trapped in their own bodies.
Yeah.
And Kathleen had finished Rice University on her back and went to law school. An amazing lady, a quadriplegic, and so I learned about the human spirit watching these folks with their struggles. And I remember once distinctly hearing her speaking with someone who was a friend of hers, and her friend is paraplegic. And you'd think that at the age that she was, which I think she was in her late 30s by then, or early 40s, and so 16 was a long time ago, And yet I still heard her share with her friend, how we do one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And that just like caught me, because you wonder how would you face the world that way. Anyway, so it's very interesting doing that. But what ended up happening was I ended up with the first gig as a family law associate. So we didn't have ProDoc or Westlaw, any of these document generating programs. So every document that I had to create, I wrote out myself. And in so doing, then kind of became familiar with the documents that we use and the practice, and spent time talking to the other attorneys and, running by them my ideas for procedurally what to do. And because family law, you go to court for everything.
Yeah.
There was not a submission docket at that time, which means that everything that you ask for, you have to argue for. And so it was a tremendous, hit the ground running kind of experience. Fortunately, though, apparently I'm a tactile kinesthetic learning, which is I learn by doing best. And so that's how I learned family law.
That's awesome. Do you have a specific, I guess, case that you like taking the most, like divorce, custody, child support, CPS?
I generally don't like CPS cases just because of my lack of familiarity with them, and that causes discomfort for me because I don't like to guess much. I mean, not when there's that much at stake. I have had CPS cases before with some success, don't get me wrong, but I generally have had fall into my path high conflict custody cases. That's sort of where I don't say specialize, but it's kind of like what the universe has brought to me.
Yeah.
Is it the most fulfilling thing, like custody, would you say? Just because it involves kids?
I think that there are two areas of the law where you can do great good. Not that I'm not poo-pooing the rest of them, don't get me wrong. But I think in criminal defense and in family law, you can do the greatest good. And if you do it right in family law, you can actually fix a family.
Yeah.
And you can alleviate a child's suffering if you get it right, and
Or
if you
future suffering.
Correct.
Yeah.
There was one judge I heard who was very brilliant. Actually, he made this observation when he was speaking to the parties. He said that we're planning for I'm going to get it totally wrong, but it was beautiful. He said something like, we're planning for the future here. And when your kids are 50, there are no rules for where they spend Thanksgiving. So, that really puts it in perspective.
I like that. Yeah. Because you still want to keep the families together and come around for holidays, no matter how old they are. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even after 18, you still want to go to your mom's house and have little, Thanksgiving, Christmas time. So
Right. Ultimately, you're forming a person. And so it's, you lose track of that when you're kind of, unfortunately, if your perspective is such that you're still stuck fighting with the other person that you're divorcing or that you're separating from or that you made a baby with, either by chance or whatever it is. But there's a little life involved, and that's a human being that's coming into the world. And if you think about it, it is an obligation to mold them into whatever the best, highest person that they could be.
Right.
And you want them to be able to have that kind of perspective, to be able to enrich their lives and please God, their children's lives by sharing them with both parents and their whole family.
So as an attorney, how do you go into your client's mindset? Because even from my personal experience, to where parents, they can't separate their differences. They're arguing to each other, but often forgetting that there's a child involved. This is for the best interest for the kids. So as an attorney, how do you mediate or how do you negotiate those two, opposite parties?
How do you reconcile that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a bit of a chameleon. You have to reach your client where you find them. There could be other factors involved, like mental health issues,
Trauma?
substance issues, prior trauma issues. And so you have to be able to make someone instantaneously comfortable enough to share their deepest, darkest secrets with you. So I guess, I'm not saying that I have that capacity, but it appears that I am able to somehow find a way to be able to assist them. So I find them, I reach them where I find them. Plus, it helps to teach your client what the law is and what is expected of them, so that moving forward they will have an understanding of how to conduct themselves. Because Judge Gilbert in Montgomery County, he nailed it. He said that the difference between family law and any other kind of law is simply this. And by the way, the other kinds of law, we call them happy law. So there's happy law and then there's family law. It's because happy law, you're sort of shuffling money around from one person to the other. I mean, I understand that there are significant damages in places, and I don't mean to reduce that to a nothing. But, from a lawyer's perspective, we call that happy law. So Judge Gilbert said that in any other instance, the car crash already happened, the breach of contract already happened, the building or bridge already collapsed, the murder already happened, the whatever it is already happened in the past. And it is Kamala Harris likes her Venn diagram, so it's a closed set of facts and circumstances that you're looking to put together or reconstruct or provide evidence of or produce information about in the trial on that. But in family law, you make evidence every day. So I have to help my clients understand that if they wish to be perceived in a certain manner, they have to then conduct themselves in a certain way. So then it's a matter of reaching the client where I find them to help them appreciate ways that they can conduct themselves and methodologies by which they can proceed moving forward, so that, I like to win. So that when we go into court, there's a greater probability of that.
And what's your definition of winning?
Well, it depends. I have my definition, and then there's the
court definition.
Court's definition, the firm's definition, if you have, as you get older, you understand that winning is if you have a client who is satisfied with your performance and at the end of the day feels like they got to participate to the nth of their experience. Like I had one hearing, for example, where I didn't necessarily support the notion of having filed this particular pleading, but I was asked to try it. So, and the client, I conversed with them, and I expressed to them the chance of a bad outcome, and there's even the possibility that if we brought this and the court finds that it might not have been the best thing to do, that they might have been responsible for payment of attorney's fees. So you have to get a real understanding of. See, I'm pretty straight with people. Some say I'm blunt, but at an hour.
Well,
me? No. But when if you think about it, I also respect people's time, and time is money.
Yeah.
So if I faff about telling people what they don't want to hear or only tell people what they want to hear, I'm wasting their time and their money. So I'm trying to, bottom line it for people, give them a straight answer when they ask a question as best I can. And I find that garners a kind of trust. Because for me personally, and again, this is Auntie Connie Ann, right? If I go to talk to someone and I'm asking questions, I feel like I'm not being heard, or I feel like I'm not getting satisfactory information. I'm not getting any practical advice. I don't know what to do when I leave. I come to you, I need to feel better when I leave. So I find that people, when they come in, they're crying, and when they leave, they're laughing. So that's a success for me. It means that I've reached them and they understand that I've got them.
Right.
And it's my problem now, so I give them some practical advice about how to conduct their existence during the pendency of the litigation. We work out a roadmap for how we're going to move forward, and hopefully they're going to stick to that. So a success then, in this instance, the person that had told me that there were 3 particular things that they were concerned about, that the responding party had need to answer for. Okay. And so went to the hearing and ended up, it was supposed to be, I guess, a quick thing, but then procedurally, I brought something up to the court that made the court take a break, and the judge went to open a book. So that was fun. So it ended up being like a 2-hour, 3-hour hearing. And my client, I found a way to offer my client either the opportunity to say himself the things that were bothering him on the record as a response to a question that I, like, here you go, what you got? Or I had asked the questions to make the responding party answer for those things. So at the end of the day, we came very close to being successful. If we had just had one little key to the puzzle, which I had said that we were missing coming in, we might have turned that actually into a win. But at the end of the day, my client understood the risks and was appreciative that we did not have to pay attorney's fees, and that he got to do everything. And I outlined it for him at the end. Like, you had these 3 concerns. You got to say these things. We outlined everything that you had about your case, and almost got that win. So, if we had just found that little piece and had a little more time to find it, so maybe next time we get there. So it's a victory when you're a grown-up lawyer, I guess, is being able to have a client who is satisfied with the job that you did, I think is the way it goes. But ultimately, I like to kick some ass in the courtroom.
It's interesting that you say that you put your client on stand, because I've heard even here paralegals, watching the hearing live, and the clients are saying completely opposite from what they have prepared their client to do. Do you get nervous that it's not going to work out the way you intended for it to go, and then the client says completely opposite things?
Well,
I guess to jeopardize themselves.
First of all, let me say that as a trial attorney, I'm really not allowed to say I get nervous. Because, it's kind of like you can't go to a person and go, I'm stressed. It's like you're a trial attorney. So that's how, you live your life on the edge, as it were. It's always a possibility. It's a contingency. So being a trial attorney, especially, and in family law also, I think that you make a mistake if you are stuck to a binder. If you're in a binder, I mean, great. These people come to court, they've got these super sexy binders. And I'm not saying I don't sometimes, but sometimes I have very little notice for a hearing. My least amount of time that I've had for a hearing was -1 hour. And I went to the hearing. The client was still, after that hearing, I was kicked out twice by the judge because my client had already pro se put on her own direct testimony. So the judge was like, yeah, you don't have anything on file, and I kicked you out twice from the Zoom room because why are you here, kind of thing. And then I sort of still made an argument for her that I believed was in her pleadings and as part of what she was trying to do. And then afterwards, she phoned and said she wanted a minute of my time exclusively. And I was like, oh, Lord, here we go. And she wanted to thank me for doing such a great job for her. Oh. So it's kind of like, that's how I had another job after Racketson and Wagner where I worked at a firm. I was their first family associate, and that's where I learned that I basically, I guess, like going 100 miles an hour with my hair on fire and can handle stuff with very little notice or time or whatever. Anyway, so you have these people who try a case and they have the sexy binders and the questions and it's all laid out, and they don't read the room. It's kind of like, you need a follow-up question, or you need to understand what's happening, and they're oblivious, or it goes by them. And I think that you can't let a pitch sail by you and land in the dirt. You have to go down swinging. That's what your client respects. That's what your client expects from an attorney, is to, if you're going to go down, at least go down swinging, say something.
Right.
Do something. It's like, don't make me have to light a fire under you to object to something, or stand up, or try to protect them when they're on the stand, or do something. So if my client is starting to, I made a joke that I could fake a heart attack at my age, just to get a break, but I wouldn't would never. But you do your best to protect the client beforehand by giving them practical advice about how to. I tell my people basically that there are ways that you can own your own testimony. I try to empower them in that sense, and I try to help them understand that if I make an objection that's overruled, if it's, for example, to a compound question. Are there other lawyers watching this? Because then I don't want to give away my tricks.
No. Oh, well, that's true.
if for example, I object to a question, like the form of the question, and my objection is overruled, then the judge looks to the client, says, answer that. If the client's savvy enough, they can say themselves, I didn't understand the question. Can you rephrase it? So if you have that understanding and that communication moving forward, then it assists a great deal with reducing the shock value or reducing the surprise. But yes, I have had clients who've just taken the case and gone off the rails, and it results in a bad outcome. And then what I tell them afterwards is, well, you took the wheel and drove us into a ditch. So, they were still happy. They're like,
see, that's where your bluntness comes from. At least you're being honest and you tell them straight
I'm
up.
like, well, if you're going to take the wheel,
right.
You come to me because I know how to drive this bus. So you're on the bus, and where we end up, we're in it together. But ultimately, you're the one who has to get off at the destination and live there. So if you're going to drive us into a ditch, enjoy that. So don't take the wheel.
Right. And that definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so like on the other side of the spectrum, have you ever had a case where it went like the best it could have?
Well, yes.
Like, what's your most like fulfilling moment? What was the most fulfilling thing?
I guess, what was the outcome? What was the situation that the client had, and what was the outcome that they got?
Well,
like something that you'll always like remember.
Right. Well, there's so many because I'm just so successful. No, I'm just. I actually
pick one of the 1,000.
I remember the first case that I did when I was by myself. I went out on my own as a solo practitioner, and I think it was 2002. We still had the wheel. Don't worry. We didn't have the internet, but we had the wheel. We're good. Anyway, there was a case that I got. A gentleman, a former Marine, came to me. And it was basically, if you didn't have money and didn't have time, you'd come to Ravdol. So someone referred it to me because they didn't want it because it was not enough time. I think it was a Friday. The trial was on a Monday.
Oh, God.
And it was a custody case. They were fighting over a little girl and a little boy. And maternal grandparents were also fighting. So you had mom, who was represented by a seasoned attorney, and you had grandparents who were represented by an attorney who had about my level of experience, plus or minus, and who is now very well known, and me. So I met with my client and tried to prepare as best I could, and filed a motion for continuance and a motion for mediation. And then at that time, the rules had changed such that there was a new rule that required us to, again, if these are lawyers listening, this is a secret.
If you are a lawyer, click out of the video now.
just pan out.
Skip to blank.
We were now required to file an affidavit reciting the health insurance for the child, that if the child or children had health insurance and how it was held, etc. And so I read that section in the code, the family code, and it said that if temporary orders had not yet been had, then the court shall not, which is not discretionary, it shall not have a trial until the parties have filed this. So, I've tried that recently and the court said that's overruled. And I'm like, but it says shall, Your Honor. And I won't say which judge, but she was like, that's overruled. I'm like, my head was going to blow up. I'm like, anyway, so that was a 2-day trial. Anyway, but this one, the judge actually, Judge Parks in the 247th, she was the associate judge then, and she opened her book and she read it and she's like, by golly, I think, because she was trying to help me, I think, sort of give me a little time. But on the other hand, this gentleman had the opportunity to get an attorney. So the judge is being judicious and is weighing that. And so she opens the book and says, "Yep, shall not. Sorry." So 2 weeks and be gone. So we went away for 2 weeks and went to mediation with Mary Shawn O'Reilly, who has now been a district, like on and off district judge for like 37 years. Very well-known lady. So I went to her for mediation, and it turns out that the mom was a dancer. And
Oh,
so,
a dancer?
yes, a dancer and a stripper. So mom's a stripper, and her stripper name as an homage was her daughter's name,
What?
Oh no.
which happened to be, Candy. So I was like,
No.
so it's an homage. I'm like, really? Come on, man.
Weird.
No.
I'm like, that's
Actually?
just not okay. So anyway, it's not actually Candy. I'm using a different name, but
Oh, okay. Yeah.
it sounded like candy. It's a drink that sounds like candy.
Brandy.
Maybe.
Oh,
So
Sandy.
no, I think you got it in one. So anyway, the point is that it was ugly, and her parents were going to be in the courtroom for the trial.
Yeah.
So before I hurt you, I actually will give you an opportunity to come clean. I figuratively call it come to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked the attorney on the other side to come talk to me, and I said, "Look, here's the deal, honey. I got her dead to right on stripping, and she's using her kid's name. Sexy. Judge's gonna love that. And by the way, she's gonna have to testify about this in front of her parents. So, and it's not going to be pretty, and I don't really want to do this. And if you make me, I have to,
Yeah.
because we have to figure out child support." So I learned a trick from my old boss. If you know the dancer's name, then you can subpoena the person who handles the bookkeeping at the club, and they come. And they will tell you how much they make. Not tips, but, and then we talk about tips, etc. How many shifts do you do? How much do you often make? But it's a thing.
Yeah.
You can deny it. That's fine. But the person is going to recognize you as someone who goes by that call sign and dances every Saturday night at whatever time. So I was like, I didn't tell her that I'd subpoenaed this person, but I'm like, I don't want it to get ugly, and it's going to get very uncomfortable. Well, they offered my guy non-primary and I think very little visitation. And
the other side, right? The opposing party.
yes, the other three,
Yeah.
granny, grandpa, and mom, offered my guy like what he wasn't going to be able to live with. So we went away and we had a trial, and the trial lasted about a week, I want to say.
Is that long?
Yes.
Typically? Yeah.
Very long. So every time what started happening was, sorry, I have an itch. Every time in the chambers, and on the way back from chambers, where the judge would call us in and say, "Don't you want to settle? Can't you figure it out? Make some kind of, end run here." No. So then when we were walking back on the way to court down the chambers, I'd be muttering in the judge's ear, "Well, you understand that the plaintiff has to pay their own way. So, I'm just saying that if you rule against my guy, if you rule for my guy, we want attorney's fees here because it's dragging out." And, just making my little speech on the way back to the bench, just in her ear. So it turns out that he got primary custody.
Oh,
he
nice.
got no domicile restrictions, so he was able to move back to, I think it was Louisiana, Mississippi, to be with his mom. And the grandparents got poured out, but I did know that they had another house. And given that this is Texas, the only way you can get a judgment that's meaningful is if you can get a lien against the property. So the only question I asked the grandparents on the stand was, "So what's the address of your other property?" And mom got a non-primary, possession order and was ordered to pay child support. So that was my
Complete
case.
turnaround.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
But there's another side to the story. You want to hear the sad side?
Yeah.
As in, welcome to the world of family law.
Oh, no. No, we don't want to hear the sad side.
Wait, did the kid become a dancer too?
No, Mario, give me
No.
a tissue.
I'll do you one better. So what happened was, it was going to be part of my book, man. Anyway, so a couple of years later, I get a call from a lady, and she reminds me of the case, tells me the names, and she says she's the grandmother. She's my client's mom, dad's mom, right? The paternal grandmother. And the children had been living over there. And so it turned out that my client had been involved in a single car, an accident. He drove into an abutment on one of the bridges, and the little girl had the same STD that he had.
Stop.
And so she was trying to figure out how she could get custody and if I could help. And so that's how that story ended.
Oh my God.
Welcome to family law.
Dang.
So it's a victory, but it was, it kind of makes you wonder sometimes. Sorry.
But you do the best that you can do in the moment.
Right,
You know,
do.
because stuff like that,
Right.
it just happens.
That's one of the ones that stands out. The other one is the one that started as a divorce and ended as a probate case, but that's a different story.
Oh no, somebody died in a divorce. During the divorce?
Right. The husband shot himself.
Oh God.
And the son found him in the bathroom. Anyway, fun stuff.
Oh man. How do you handle that? I mean, I often think about like even cops, right?
I mean, what do you do?
Like, how do you
can't
like
really-
go home and like do you process everything? Because like even like cops or even just whoever, maybe the surgeon, right? Like if they witness, like if your client dies on your table,
I
like
think it
you're
comes over
required to go
time.
to counseling and go talk to a therapist. How
How
do
do you
you?
handle the real world?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's difficult after a time. I mean, sometimes I think I'm getting too old for this. I've heard it said at a CLE, a continuing legal education for family law
Yeah.
attorneys, that family law attorneys are kind of like a water balloon. And the way you should think of it is we need a little, I wish I could tell my boss this, we need more PTO than regular people. Paid time off.
Preach me too.
I know, right?
Shoot, throw me in there while you're at it.
I'm like, hey,
I'll
yo,
take some.
vacations and afternoon naps for everybody. No, because what happens is if you imagine it, here, there's the balloon, and then every time you bump into something like this, it pokes holes in the balloon. So you run out of water a lot quicker than your average, I suppose, because of the stresses of the job. And they say, like exercise. Well, if billable hours are the way that you
Get paid.
get your butter on your bread, as it were, and account for yourself, well, that's hard to do because
You gotta work.
You got to work to get billable hours. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
And so then I guess there's time off. But then if billable hours are a thing, then time off, you have to like find time to get time off. But
Yeah.
I try to find a way to have joy for me. I mean, like I haven't joined the gym again in a while, obviously, but for me, it was swimming for a while. That was the thing that stopped me from being suicidal or homicidal. And now my people are like, could you just go swimming, please? Because I haven't been in a while.
Yeah.
But I like, if I can get to Galveston and put my feet in the water, like I told my paralegal, every Galveston County hearing is on a Friday afternoon because we're going to schedule it that way so that I can get to the beach and put my feet in the water.
Yeah.
Like, or if I could go to a movie with my dad on the weekend, or if I can find time to just be with the people that I care about and just, like have someone or another soul in the universe that you can relate to or find joy with. That's kind of like,
Where like time stops,
yeah.
life stops. And
Correct.
it's just you and them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or just
Or it's just you alone processing, like you're going for a walk or something like that. It's not easy. There are days where I have been just not that long ago here at the firm. This time, I had a client talk to me, and after it, I was kind of done for the day. It was like 4:00, and I had other things to do, but I was like, I'm just gonna go because to be really close to someone, like I was talking about being a tear, to be close up with someone who has experienced such evil in their universe. Like it's not an NCIS, it's not a CSI, it's not a movie, it's not a legal show, it's not even a true crime. It's here in front of you to touch, speak to, and share their experience and try to help. And to be that close to it, it's a different kind of thing, man. It's a very different kind of thing. And there have been, I think, fortunately, I can count them on one hand, that kind of wicked or evil that I've been around or close to, that energy that is just like sapped it out of me for just a little bit, and I just need to go away.
That's completely understandable.
Yeah.
Because this world can get real evil and real wicked real fast.
Well, there are things that people do to each other that are just, they're beyond what Hollywood can conceive of, and to be close to it is just, it kind of, it hits you in places that you don't recognize until you see it. And I want to help these people. I wish I could go back in time and sort of just change their universe in a way. And you're looking at the damage that has resulted from their experiences. And it's very disturbing.
You never thought about not family law, but something different?
Counseling?
Well, no. But like a different, type of law, because sometimes it's too much. Like, you've ever thought about, I can't do it anymore. I'm just gonna
do commercial litigation or something like that.
Yeah, something easy and straightforward,
Well, I've thought about it, and maybe, as I get older, perhaps I may decide to do something different. Because in a sense, what we do is gamble with other people's children. And there's a lot at stake there.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I do like to kick some serious ass in a courtroom. And if you're going to do that, you might as well help a family if you can while you're at it.
Right.
So I guess I'm arrogant enough to think, or deluded enough to think, that I make a difference. And to me, that means a lot. And in my tradition, to alleviate suffering is, it's a good deed. It's a thing that we're basically put on this earth to try to do for one another. So if I can do that, so be it.
That's awesome. So kind of changing the avenue just a little bit, what are some of the things that you recommend your clients not to do in a trial setting or hearing?
I remember one time we recorded a video, and it was a video on what not to wear or what not to say in a courtroom. Not sure if you want to go into that story. However, it was a wild story.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, my mom was a very clever lady. And the older I get, the wiser she became. And she said that when you're in a relationship, don't raise your voice and don't raise your hands. So I would say that when you're in a relationship, especially if you're going through litigation, don't become violent. Don't become violent toward the other person, toward the children, or toward yourself. Like I said, there was one case where there was a man who killed himself during the divorce, and he had done it in a way that was wicked, in the sense that he called his son and asked him to come over and bring they called them the doggies, to bring the doggies over and to come there. And he felt guilty that he hadn't gone. And my client wife really believed 100% that his intent was to kill the dogs, the child, and then himself.
Oh my God.
Because it was that kind of, I guess, wicked or sickness or whatever it was. And I don't mean to bring the room down, but, like I say, you get in touch with
it's real life.
Evil and hurt and sickness and distress and pain, and these sorts of things can turn you into someone that, when looking back, you don't recognize. So what you want to try to continue to do is to be someone that you can respect when you look in the mirror in a room that's empty. And you don't want to allow the process to turn you into something else. It can, because you've got a couple of things going on. First of all, you've got the distress of a broken relationship, or the challenges of figuring out, how to get out from under the obligations of having a child that you either planned for or didn't plan for, didn't want, or this thing that you're stuck having to deal with the other parent for so long. Or even if you don't have children, there is the issue of potentially adultery, or there is the issue of hidden assets that you're looking for. The frustration can cause anger and hurt and depression, and all those sorts of things can result in behaviors that we can regret or turn inward or outward in a way that's violent. So I would say that the biggest mistake you could make is being violent, or being aggressively angry verbally. You don't want to, because when you're in a relationship with someone, you know exactly where their buttons are, and you can cut someone to the quick with just a look or a phrase. You can turn their just switch right there. And the last thing you want to do is to be that kind of person, because, well, let's just say to get divorced well, or to do, to become a single parent well, involves a tremendous amount of maturity and a tremendous level of patience and self-awareness and understanding, and the capacity to sacrifice. And that is something that is, it's almost like a holy journey in a way, and it's very difficult to come by. And I wouldn't be able to come by it easily, I don't think. But the struggle, you kind of want to get a hold of before it takes hold of you. So don't get violent, don't get angry, don't get even, don't get stupid, these sorts of things. The other thing is, you want to be sure to communicate with your attorney. You want to get an attorney, because doing it alone is all good and well. But, like I tell people, I can probably look up instructions on how to take out my own appendix online. It's like you cut here and you do some stuff, right? But the thing is that it's going to be missing a lot of other information, like stasis, like how to cauterize a bleeder, where not to cut. I have to know anatomy. I heard a story just today. A dude in Florida, a surgeon, he thought he was taking out someone's spleen, and he thought it was so diseased that it was 4 times the size and had migrated to the other side of this person's body. Turns out he had removed the person's liver and had lacerated the hepatic artery or whatever, so the person immediately bled out on the table.
Oh my
So
God.
just fun. I'm sorry, I'm just the best, Anna. So
Oh my gosh.
so you don't want to
go to doctors, go to surgeons. And where was that at?
It's in Florida.
Yep,
Everything
never-
happens in Florida.
I know,
I'm going
right?
to Florida soon.
That's why they have this Florida man. Never mind.
Remind me to never go anywhere when I go to Florida in a week from now. I'm not going anywhere.
You'll
I'm
be
not
fine.
trusting anybody.
You'll be fine.
I won't even trust the chefs.
I don't think Life Light goes that far, but you'll be fine. No, my point is that, I could read about it, but there are a lot of subtle information and other things. It's not going to be there. Even doctors get it wrong sometimes. So, you need someone to help you. Don't go into this fight alone. But then you want to have someone, when you pick an attorney, you want to have one that reaches you in a way that's productive. If you're at odds with your lawyer, then you've got a problem.
Yeah.
If you feel like your lawyer isn't hearing you or isn't communicating with you, that's a problem. Now, if you feel like your lawyer is busy, try to understand that there's a reason for that, because they're probably in high demand and they're only one person. They're going to try to give you the kind of attention that you're deserving of. And so that's the delay. Like for me, like I'll sit with a consultation, it'll take like 2-3 hours, because I want to give them all the information that I can, and I'm only one me. So then the other stuff that I've got planned for the day kind of gets bumped up or backwards or forwards, and you juggle. But you want to be honest with your attorney and be mature about the process and listen to what you're told, because you're paying for the advice. you probably want to take it. Just saying.
Yeah.
So if you grab
Right.
the wheel, you're saying.
Yeah.
So if you grab
Right.
the wheel, you're gonna end up in a ditch. So don't do it.
Have you ever rejected a case? Like, this is a case that I'm not going to take, like, based off of what you've heard from the client. Have you ever had that instances? Like, it's a complete deal breaker for you or something.
Well, I think there might have been one or two cases where I felt like the likelihood of a successful outcome as far as client satisfaction would be significantly reduced because the client and I weren't on the same planet. You know,
It's not even the same page, not even the same
yeah,
book.
like
Same
no,
planet.
we weren't in the same universe. It wasn't happening. I tried different ways to try to reach them and their thoughts or goals or understanding of things. It wasn't going anywhere. So that's where you quote them a retainer that's very high. Like that'll be $20,000. Well, I can't afford that. I'm very sorry. You know, and so then they'll find someone else.
Yeah.
But I don't do it very often because I guess I try to think that there is a way that I could try to help the people who come in front of me, and that there's a reason why they're there. So
Yeah.
I try to do that for people.
And then you talked about a rule. What is it in one of your stories about how the rules changed? I'm assuming like the laws changed or like the court rules.
No, see, the state legislature in Texas, unless I'm mistaken, and please God, I hope I'm not mistaken because that'd be incredibly embarrassing. But they meet only for 2 years at a time, and then they take 2 years off. And I think Congress should do that in the United States, in Washington. Would be so nice.
I know.
Like, so for 2 years they're closed.
Wait, 2
Fantastic.
years where is closed?
Austin, they're 2 years on and 2 years off. It's my
The
understanding.
entire city's closed?
No,
No, not closed.
the senators and
Right over my head.
they meet.
Oh,
anyway,
the Congress building.
Yes.
Ah,
They
okay.
take time off. Is my point.
I just seen that Congress building.
Is it 1 year on, 1 year off?
I don't
Am
know.
wrong?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
I think it is 2.
I thought so.
I think it is
no,
too.
No, yeah.
I don't
It's 2.
like sounding like an idiot.
I
It's
have
sure it's
no
two.
It's
clue.
not a good
to be
look for
honest.
me.
Let's research it.
I think it's 2. But my question was like when there is a new ruling or when there is a new law, has it been difficult at all to kind of strategize your plan to
Or
Mm-hmm.
go
adjust?
and yeah.
Well, yes and no. The one that was the worst idea was regarding children, where initially the idea was that if a child was 12 or older, they could execute an affidavit of choice.
Right.
And so so the affidavit of choice would come up. Then they decided, no, it could be a child 10 or older. It's like, that's great.
I thought it was still 12.
Hold on.
Oh.
This was back when, we had the wheel, but not the internet.
Hold on.
So, so when I first started, kids 12 or older, this was in 1998, right? So probably before you were born. I'm going to go play in oncoming traffic.
No.
I'm sorry.
I was already born.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
They weren't.
We're going to play where?
fantastic.
No, like 20, 27.
What?
27?
Okay, we're done. Thank you.
All right, on that note, guys, we're going to wrap.
I know. It's like, quit. And I'm going to go for a walk on the beach. You stressed me out. I'm so stressed. Oh, my God.
Friday, tomorrow.
Like, I'm so stressed. Anyway, so it was kids 12 and older. Then they reduced it to kids 10 and older. And they thought, that was a bad idea. So then they went back to 12 and older. But then what happened was because people are, people and not very nice in this sense, the child would go for the summer to the one parent and get a pony and a race car and a fur coat and whatever else, and the Xbox or the latest gaming system and the beautiful room and the trip to wherever, and spoiled to death. And of course, there are no rules in the summertime because no homework and no one cares, and the kid could run wild and be feral and do whatever it
This is a little
wanted.
bit too personal right now, huh?
What?
No, I'm just
Were
kidding.
you a feral child?
Yeah, in the summer. Except I didn't get the Xboxes and the
Explains a lot,
ponies
Cody.
and anything. But I did go to my dad's and I didn't go to Chicago every single summer up until I was 13 when
Yeah.
he passed away. So I didn't
Oh,
have to
no.
go. But that choice thing that you were talking about, I remember like being younger and like, it's hard to say, but like looking forward to having a choice in that, because there were some times where I didn't want to go because I get homesick sometimes.
Yeah.
But
It's a long time. But there's a difference between having a choice and a voice.
yeah.
So we'll get there. And I'm very sorry for your loss, by the way.
Oh, it's all
That's just
good. You know, it's life. It's life, right?
Yeah. No. No. They say it's the new normal, which totally sucks. Anyway,
Right.
it doesn't get better. It just gets different.
Yes.
And yeah. So
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
yeah. Now I only cry for my mom once a day. Anyway, sorry. So I know, right?
That's so sad.
Well, she was my person.
I know.
Anyway,
I don't know what would do without my mom.
this is my point. I was like, just throw me in because I'm done. Throw me in with her. I was going to jump in, but they wouldn't let me. Anyway, so kids 12 and older. And so then they get all this jazz given to them and visited upon them. And so suddenly they wanted to go live with the summer parent. So then at the end of the summer, they have an affidavit of choice, right? And then they come home and then some other stuff happens and suddenly there's a new affidavit of choice. And then there's another affidavit of choice. And so it was causing great conflict in children. And that is the last thing you want to do, is cause conflict in a child. Anytime you ask a child of any age, heck, I couldn't do it now. You asked me to pick, well, I mean, everybody knows I'd pick
Which
my mom,
parent,
but, you know, like, it's awful.
Yeah.
How do you, like, don't ask me that. That's terrible.
That's
Yeah.
always been like a thing with me too, like growing up, is I've always hated the fact of being in the middle and having to
Exactly.
it's almost like having to choose.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you know, one person tells you one thing, the other person tells you another thing, and then you go over there with the things that you keep in mind from the other person, and then it changes things.
And
you
then
know?
they're going to not like me because I wanted the other one. And I don't
Right.
really want to say.
Exactly.
And
Right.
you're making a child feel all this, and it's not necessary. A child's job is to be a child and to do their homework and get good grades, the best grades they can get, and do whatever extracurriculars they can and move forward in the best path forward that they can
Right.
for their own particular future. That's
Right.
the child's job, not to mitigate your nonsense and the parents.
You can so like it's not just a one time like, hey, we filed this thing. It's like you can continuously.
What would happen in the more affluent cases apparently is you get the flip flop. So then the legislature said, probably not the best idea either. So now what happens is you could file a motion for the judge to confer with the child, and if the child is 12 or older, particularly, the judge will confer with the child, and even then it's advisory. It's not a dispositive idea, because it's still the grown-ups choose for the children, but it sort of depends on their age, because if your kid is 16, 17, they got a driver's license, they got to vote with their feet.
Right.
And you're inviting a child to run away if you put them in the place where, like I had one case where the 11-year-old and the 12-year-old had literally a plan to run away. They had bus tickets, taxi fare. They had literally the plan to run away.
Yeah.
And so it's not the best idea. But the difference is now you can get an amicus attorney or an attorney ad litem. And what
That's
I tell...
attorney for the kid.
Yeah, so that gives the child a voice in the process. And now you sound like I was, which is, as a kid, if you were going to make a choice about me and didn't ask me first, it really chapped my...
yeah.
But Jesus, because I was like, don't be choosing for me without at least having the decency to respect me enough to ask me.
Yeah.
Like even when I was a little person.
So with the amicus, okay, so now you're representing the child, hearing the kid's voice of what they want. How would then the amicus, I guess, communicate to you as an attorney for mom or dad or whoever that you're representing? Like, how do you guys work together to come to an agreement?
Well, I am all about hearing what someone has to say about my client. If you're opposing counsel and you got something to say, I am all ears. And And I'm like, well, that will help me. It will facilitate my communication with my client. What you got?
Yeah.
Same with the amicus. Is there something that is of concern to you? Is there some information that you don't yet have? How can we help you reach whatever determination? Do you need more access? What can we change that might change your determination? And so you get a greater understanding of the concerns that the children might be voicing to the amicus that then you can share or not share with your client, but you can kind of mold the situation if they're moldable, if they're open to it. So again, it comes down to the communication between you and your attorney. And if your attorney comes to you with something, don't shoot the messenger and get so pissed you're not going to hear the rest of it. Because I've had cases like that where I say, and I ask them first, did you ever do this thing? And they go off the rails, off the charts, hit the ceiling, and I spend the rest of the time trying to get them back down to earth before I can even get to the rest of it, which was just asking to vet the information that I got from the amicus. We have our ways of doing things. I'm not just going to, come out and say the amicus says that and the other.
Yeah.
Because I
Right.
want to know how someone's going to perform on the stand. In that case, clearly in that instance, not well yet. But,
Yeah. Right. No.
so that's how we do.
That's interesting. It's been a really informative
Yeah.
podcast episode for sure.
It's
a
a
lot of
different perspective knowing you, because I've known you for, my God, a couple of years now, right?
time.
So just knowing you as a person, as an attorney, but then like hearing your passion for kids is eye-opening.
And
So
your deep
it's,
knowledge of the cases.
I mean,
and
I
everything.
always knew you were a great attorney. I mean, I hear
appreciate
it all
that.
the time, and then you do such a great job in trial and things like that.
Appreciate
But the passion behind the suit, right, is something that people don't hear all the time.
And it makes sense why you're so successful is because the strength and what you pull your strength from is an endless, little pond of strength. I don't know. So
Well, I appreciate that very much.
been
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah, but thank you for having us.
you
And
for
then if
having me.
the audience, if you enjoy Connie Ann, you guys can always give us a call and speak to her directly and have a consultation with her if she can juggle it. If she has time and she's
if
not on the beach.
she may need to take a walk and Galveston, put her feet in the water
We'll
first.
find a way to make it happen. Don't worry.
Just don't drive yourself to the ditch because you want to get an attorney before you do that. But thank you guys for tuning in for another episode. Check us back out next week for another one. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Connie Ann.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching another episode of Legal Lounge. If you enjoyed this episode, you can always give our office a call to schedule your free 30-minute consultation with one of our team members. Check the description below and give us a call today.